Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, I'm Putri Cinderella from Class D English Education Department, State University of Makassar. Today, I will take you to visit one of the countries in East Egypt. So, are you ready? Egypt, officially known as the Arab Republic of Egypt, Jumhuriyat Misr al-Arabia, is a country located mostly in northwestern Africa with the capital city in Cairo. With an area of about 997,739 square kilometers, Egypt covers the Sinai Peninsula while most of its territory lies in North Africa. Egypt with Libya in the west, Sudan in the south, the Gaza Strip, and Israel in the northwest. Its borders with waters that can be found through the Mediterranean Sea to the north and the Red Sea to the east. Egypt is one of the oldest countries in the world. It is more than 5,000 years old. The native Egyptians are a nomadic tribe from the Sahara Desert, Africa. For 3,000 years, Egypt was ruled by pharaohs from dynasty to dynasty, of which there were 30 dynasties, of which 140 pharaohs ruled from year to year. Ancient Egypt is divided into 3 eras: Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and New Kingdom. After the New Kingdom era, the ancient Egyptian Empire collapsed and was ruled by tribes from outside, namely the Romans by the Great Alexander, Arabs, Turks by the Ottoman Empire. There are many relics from the ancient Egyptian Empire. For example, there are the pyramids of Giza in Giza, the Sphinx in Giza, Valley of the Kings, Red Pyramid, Pyramid of Saqqara, City of Memphis, ancient Egyptian city. The Arab Republic of Egypt is a democratic republic. The president is the chief of state. The prime minister is the head of the government. The main legislative body is the People's Assembly, which has elected and appointed members. There is also a consultative council called the Shura. Its function is mostly advisory. Under the current government, the judiciary has increased its independence. The legal system is derived from European models, primarily the French Napoleonic Code, but it is also influenced by Islamic law. The official language of Egypt is Standard Arabic. Linguists have identified 11 languages in Egypt, 5 of which are different versions of Arabic. One of those 11 languages, Coptic, is now extinct except for its use by the clergy of the Coptic Church. Most business people who work with foreigners speak English, French, or both. Religion plays a large role in Egyptian society. Islamic principles regarding law, politics, and social customs continue to influence Egypt's laws and political interaction despite Egypt's formal status as a secular state. The vast majority of the Egyptian population, 90%, identify as Muslim, mostly of the Sunni denomination. Of the remaining population, 9% identify as Coptic Orthodox Christian, and the remaining 1% identify with some other denomination of Christianity. Cognitive styles. How Egyptians organize and process information. Egyptians are open to information that does not conflict with Islamic values. They tend to be more open to Western ideas than people in other Arab cultures. Most Egyptians are trained to think associatively, so information is processed from a subjective and experimental perspective. Islamic law is adhered to in all situations, leading to a universality fee. Negotiation strategies: what Egyptians accept as evidence. Faith in the Islamic ideology is the primary source of truth. This truth is modified by the personal feelings one has about the problem or situation. The highly educated may use facts and reason objectively. Value systems, the basis for behavior. The Islamic religion is a critical component in Egyptian life, playing an important role in all aspects of social structures. Solutions to all problems are in the correct interpretation and application of Islamic law. The following three sections identify the value systems in the predominant culture, their method of dividing right from wrong, good from evil, and so forth. Purpose of decision making. The male leader is the locus of decision making, but he makes decisions through the consensus of the group or collective. The individual Egyptian is always subordinate to the family, tribe, or collective. Leadership and identity come from a person's lineage and his or her ability to protect the honor of the extended family. This is a kinship culture with little social identity outside the network of kin relationships. Source of anxiety reduction. The family is the cornerstone of an individual's social identity. Security is found in family loyalty and absolute obedience to Islamic law. The most deeply held values, honor, dignity, and security, are available to an individual only as part of a larger kinship group. Greetings. Since there are several styles of greetings in Egypt, it is safe to wait for your Egyptian counterpart to imitate the greeting, especially at a first meeting. Westernized Egyptian men shake hands with other men. Some Egyptian men will shake hands with Western women. Western businesswomen should wait for an Egyptian man to offer his hand. Titles or forms of utterance. Westerners frequently find Arabic names confusing. The best solution is to request their names written in your native language of any Egyptians you will meet, speak to, or correspond with. Egyptian names are written in Arabic, in part because short vowels are not written in Arabic. Translating from Arabic to other alphabets is not an exact science. Gestures. The left hand is considered unclean in the Arab world. Never eat with the left hand and avoid gesturing with the left hand. While Egyptians constantly gesture with their hands while speaking, they do not point at another person. This would be considered impolite. Gifts. If you are invited to an Egyptian home, bring a gift of baked goods or chocolate. Sometimes a beautiful made compass can be a good gift. A compass enables a devout Muslim to always know where Mecca is, even when traveling. Dress. While foreigners from Egyptian standards of majesty do not immediately adopt traditional native clothing, Egyptians may find it offensive to see foreigners dressed in their traditional clothes. Despite the Egyptian heat, most of the body must remain covered. Cultural note: although we think of Egypt as a hot desert destination, it can get unforgettable cold in the winter. Many Egyptian homes are not heated, so if you are staying in an Egyptian home in the winter, dress accordingly. Thus, show an Egyptian respect by dressing modestly and remaining sensitive and polite. Praise their strength and virtues when possible. Egyptians tend to give compliments generously. Acknowledge the history of Egypt and the country's cultural heritage by showing an understanding of Egyptian history and contemporary culture will likely impress them. Respect an Egyptian's intelligence if they show evidence of a higher education. Don't try not to say anything that could be taken as insulting or derogatory. Rather, take an indirect approach toward corrective remarks to minimize the possibility of tarnishing one's honor. Avoid telling crass or dirty jokes, as this type of humor is generally not appreciated in Egypt. Avoid openly criticizing Egyptian politics, as criticism from a foreigner may be interpreted as an insult or suspicious. Verbal communication style: Egyptians are quite expressive and passionate when they converse. They have a tendency to be evocative and verbose by telling stories and using wordplay and jokes. Indirect communication: Egyptians generally communicate in an indirect manner. They tend to avoid replying with a direct no, and instead usually a lengthy reply that may not answer the question. However, depending on the context of the conversation and who they are communicating with, they may be direct in some instances. Humor: Egyptians often use humor in their conversations and find it encouraging when their jokes are appreciated. Nonverbal communication: Physical contact. The appropriateness of touching during conversations depends on the relationship between the people interacting. Close friends and family will frequently touch each other, while acquaintances will generally refrain from doing so. Norms and expectations of physical contact also often depend on the gender of the people interaction. Personal space: The common physical distance maintained between people is usually an arm's length. The acceptable proximity may vary depending on the genders of the two people interaction with one another. Gestures: Touching all four fingers to the thumb, with the palm facing inwards, then shaking it up and down is used to tell someone to wait a moment. Beckoning: To beckon someone, Egyptians tend to whistle, clap, or say psst. Eye contact: Direct eye contact is acceptable in most cases and is valued as a sign of respect to the speaker as well as a sign of honesty and sincerity. So that was a little explanation about the culture in Egypt. If there is a word or pronunciation error, please forgive me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.